Let's see. The new races. This is super exciting. I didn't know about this. Thanks for telling me.
This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and today we are talking The War Within, and we are talking the new playable races in it. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, yeah, thanks Tally, but I already know the new playable race in the new WoW expansion. It's like, well, I forgot what they're called, but they're like dwarves, yeah? But they're more stony and they live underground, like dark iron dwarves.
I'm honestly so upset that the female dwarves don't get mustaches. Like, I wanted the big beard with the whole mustache and everything just as big and epic as the male dwarf. If we're gonna do it, let's do it, you know? Instead, you get like, there's one beard that has a little bit of mustache on it. It's like kind of like, it's like that. Okay.
Are they dark iron dwarves? There's something like that, right? And I don't blame you for feeling that way, honestly. Of all the exciting new features coming in The War Within, like warbands and their shared everything, Xalatath, Delves, hero talents, Xalatath, the Hallowfall zone, and Xalatath, earthen dwarves as the next new allied race rank a solid last place in the hype and anticipation stakes for quite a lot of people. And yeah, I get it. What I will say is that after a bit of time playing the alpha, the earthen are a lot more interesting than I may have first thought. I mean, their capital is stunning, obviously, but also their mysterious past and culture and personality is really good fun too. I've kind of warmed to the earthen, although they are made of rock and also live in buildings made of rock and make their furniture out of rock, and also they eat rock. And I don't know, that is kind of like a little bit serial killer for me, but whatever. This video isn't about...
Come on, they're made of rocks. Like, they need to eat rocks to sustain themselves. Like, what do you think their body is gonna make new rock out of? Cheeseburgers? No, they need rocks.
The earthen? No, this is about the other races that everyone is absolutely convinced are going to become playable during the next expansion.
Okay, but I thought this video was about the other...
solid evidence we have to back it up. It's
Tell
not
me.
the new Chad kobolds. It's not the chunky rock boys who look good enough to eat if you're an earthen. It's not even the multitudes of new Nerubians with more limbs than you could shake a crab at. And it's not ogres, obviously, you're never getting them. So join us as we talk the very suspiciously allied race looking new races on the War Within Alpha. The incredible lore that they unlock and how the game will genuinely never be the same again. Okay, go, 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 go. The Arathi. Hallowfall is such an exciting zone.
Maybe the earthen won't be able to... Like, maybe they'll be able to use their hearthstone as a health stone. They can just use it as an extra little snack.
Like, seriously, as I write this video, it hasn't gone up for testing on the alpha yet.
I haven't seen it yet.
Does,
I need to go look at it.
Oh boy, is the internet going to go absolutely jam with all the goodies people are going to be uncovering. Because more so than any other new area in the War Within so far, this is the place that looks like it's full of the kind of lore we will be talking about for years to come. So allow me to get the ball rolling. The main inhabitants of the zone, from our point of view, are the Arathi. And here's what our buddy Maria Hamilton has to say about them.
Hey, I was here like in one of the front rows
for this. Culture that players will encounter in the War Within is the Arathi. Yep, and you probably have questions, right? So these are descendants of the original Arathorian Empire, and they've arrived relatively recently and through some somewhat mysterious circumstances.
There are two important things that Maria mentions about the Arathi of Hallowfall. She calls them descendants of the original Arathian Empire. So I'm gonna have to explain the Arathian Empire, aren't I? Okay, very basically, it was pretty much the dawn of human civilization as we know it in WoW. Around 2,800 years ago, Warlord Thoradin, the leader of the Arathi tribe on the northeastern border, united all the human tribes that had flourished in the Eastern Kingdoms in opposition to the neighboring Armani trolls, and the Arathi Empire was born. Now, Maria says they are descendants of that original empire, which suggests to me that they may have separated off relatively early on. Quite soon after its formation, Thoradin allied the Arathi Empire to the High Elves of Kel'Thalas in the Troll Wars, which is when the elves agreed to first train 10 humans in the ways of arcane magic. This is when humans got magic and became mages, and considering the Arathi of Hallowfall seem to be quite zealously pro-light, is it possible that they splintered from the Empire then, in protest against their leaders embracing this blasphemous arcane force? Maybe. It definitely seems that the absolute latest these guys would have gone their own way would have been 1,200 years ago, as that's when the original Arathi Empire broke up into the 7 kingdoms we are familiar with today. In Tides of Darkness,
I feel like that's probably
says
not
that
it.
among the northern kingdoms, the last of the Arathi was said to have disappeared into the southern wilderness after the Empire's collapse. Are these the Arathi that those stories are talking about? It seems pretty likely, doesn't it? To be one
Maybe
of
they're gonna challenge the current rule of the humans. Maybe they'll try to become a competing faction against Stormwind.
these two moments, or anything in the 1,600 years in between. The other interesting thing Maria says is that the Arathi have arrived in Hallowfall relatively recently.
Maybe
so quite
Andrew
where
will
else
let
they've
them
been
have
for the last 1,200 years is currently unknown, but they're
No, he
here
wouldn't do
now,
that.
spreading word of the light to the hideous Note people and other cave dwellers under the radiant gaze of a huge Naru. It's a crystal in the cavern ceiling, which also sometimes goes voidy like a Naru, but what is the crystal, really? It's a mystery. To anyone interested in folklore, the similarity...
Maybe Anduin is going to be the one to unite the remnants of the Arathi and be like a bridge between these people.
of a bunch of crusader-looking old knight dudes living
'Cause he's
underground
holy.
from the Arathian Empire is impossible not to associate with the Arthurian legend, whereby Arthur and his Round Table boys all sleep soundly under the ground in Avalon, waiting for the time when they will be needed to come back and save Britain from the most dire dangers. Which, you know, you might be a bit late on that one, mate, to be honest. But why are we talking about them here? They may be airship riding badasses, but they're just humans at the end of the day, and we are going to get their admittedly top-tier boss armor through questing. So
But if
they
they're
make a
not
pretty
humans, though-
underwhelming allied race, right? Well, internet, allow me to introduce you to someone who might change your mind. Farin Lothar. This lady popped up in the data in the first build of the alpha, and the internet went wild because A, she looks very badass and cool and has a
She does look
shield
really
for an
cool.
arm, and 2, she is called Lothar, the same name as Anduin Lothar, the last recognized true descendant of Thoradin and Lion of Stormwind, one of the greatest generals of all time, who led human forces in the First and Second Wars, and who everyone's angel-faced crying boy, who's weirdly more attractive when he cries, Anduin Rin, is named after. So, like... that's rather interesting, isn't it? Is this a previously unknown descendant of Thoradin or Anduin Lothar?
I bet.
Maybe. Obviously, this being the internet, a depressingly large amount of people decided to be incredibly stupid, assume Farin is Anduin Lothar's daughter, and kick off into some deranged racism about the color of her skin, forgetting the bit where A, this is a fantasy universe where the
Honestly,
humans are evolved from literal
Just f those people, man. Like, don't even. I wouldn't even acknowledge these pieces of shit that bring up that kind of stuff.
stone golems, and so have no obligation to follow
Like,
the
it doesn't have anything to do with anything.
same genealogical rules as Earth humans, but more importantly, 2, that this bunch of Arathi left the Empire at least 1,200 years ago, which, believe it or not, is before Anduin Lothar was born. So why is Farin called Lothar? Family names, how do they work? But that's not even the most interesting
We don't
thing
know anything
Farin,
about it.
which is...
We literally, you have one pic. Fuck out. You don't know anything about this person.
her ears. Farin appears to be a half-elf, using new ear customizations on the human models to
That's
signify
awesome.
that. Now, after they teamed up in the Troll Wars, Chronicle says
Half-elf,
that
you
the
can be a
High
half-elf?
Elves pledged loyalty and friendship to Arator and Thoradin's line, and looks like they got very friendly. Because it's not just Farin, it's all the Arathi children too. The Arathi certainly seem to be a race at least partially made up of half-elves.
That is
Now, of
super
course,
cool.
The reasons why the Arathi of Hallowfall count half-elves among their number will be explained the minute this zone hits the alpha for testing, but that's not what's important here. I want to talk about the half-elf ear customizations that accompany the Arathi's arrival in the data. Now, of course, there have always been half-elves in Warcraft lore. Every single one of the Windrunner sisters fell for the most chud normie human dudes you could possibly imagine. Future, definitely most important character in the World Soul Saga and real child of light and shadow, Arator is the half-elf child of Turalyon and Aleria. But we've never had graphical representation of this in-game before now.
That's pretty cool.
In the files, there are options listed as human customization options to change ear shape to
so humans can be
pointing,
half-elves.
which sure could totally be a tool Blizz added to make Arathi NPCs, and definitely is, but there is also options for elven races to have round ear customizations too.
So you can use the elf model but have round
At this
ears.
point, why on earth wouldn't you make this an option for players too? Maybe as an unlock for Arathi Renown or further down the line in the expansion. I am totally convinced this is happening and that during the course of the next expansion, thanks to the Arathi and the graphical customizations created for them, players will be able to choose to make their human or elf characters half-elves going forward. Oh, just in time for the Midnight expansion, which is based around uniting the Elven kingdoms. And hey, if you're a Horde player who glazed over a bit during all that, don't worry, because oh man, have we got something for you. The Haria. We've just been looking at some half-elf
This is what I care about.
How about some half
Okay, this is what I'm actually here for.
Trolls. The Haranir are
Yes!
so much more than a bunch of ears. They mix recognizable elements of both races and throw in some fur. Or
Oh my
actually
God,
quite a lot of
so
fur. And quills?
cute.
Are those quills? Holy those are quills.
Quills.
People are already calling the Haranir proto-elves or
Oh my
the
God.
missing link. As we all know, yes, it's another history lesson, the original elves, the night elves, evolved from trolls. When Aman'Thul ripped Yasharaj
I
out
know
of the
about
planet's
that.
crust way back in the day, it left a gaping wound called the Well of Eternity, filled with basically the blood of Azeroth herself. It's why the Titans decided to imprison the other old gods where they stood rather than plucking them all out in a similar fashion, risking damaging the world soul even more. Over time, and at the height of the Troll Empire, the Dark Trolls settled around the well, and its potent arcane energies started to have a profound effect on them. So much so that they eventually evolved into Night Elves. It's hard to look at the Horanir and not think of this evolution, not notice that they are a mix of
amazing.
troll and
Show me the male.
specifically Night Elf and also Quillen, but could it be that this
Love
is
it.
a group of Dark Trolls that moved away from the Well of Eternity at an earlier point of that evolution into High Elves? Quick note on my use of the word evolution here as well. I think modern ears often hear it as meaning an improvement, but that's not really what it means in biological terms. Here it just means
Ooh,
they
looks good.
changed because of environmental factors.
Oh, they're furry.
It seems likely, doesn't
Oh
it?
my
There is another explanation
God.
too, of course, and that's that being so far underground, like the Haranir are,
It's the furry adjacent race.
when we find them, is what caused the change. Maybe being so much closer to the world soul had a
Yes.
similar but slightly lesser effect to being close to the Well of Eternity. And
I love it.
these guys just evolved a
It
bit
reminds me of furbolgs from D&D.
differently. Again, it looks like we're going to have to wait until a later alpha build to find out properly, and it is all very intriguing from a lore perspective.
10
but
out of
what
10.
makes these guys worth talking about
Yep.
in a future playable races video over, say, the terrifying Nope people? It's their customization options. When Blizzard creates new race models for the purposes of being an NPC faction or enemy type, it's not unusual for them to have customization options in the files similar to player character creation options, especially if it's a race that is going to be used a lot. And it makes it quick
That's
and
a
easy
good
for
skin
devs
color.
to create new NPCs when those options are available too. What they usually
Shoulder
don't
quills
bother
are
with,
amazing.
though, is flagging new race types to be able to equip player-exclusive armor sets and items. The Sethrak are a great example of this. They can't swap out different armor at all. Every item of clothing they wear is literally part of their NPC model. Contrast that to Vulpera, who appeared in the same BFA Alpha build, and it was clear straight away which one of these was going to end up as an allied race. The
Yeah.
Foxy Boys had loads more customization and armor options than we would usually expect from an NPC-only race, and instantly the data mining
Yeah,
community
we knew
had them
early on.
pegged as probably probable playable options down the line, which of
It's
course
highly
absolutely
likely.
happened. Now here's the thing, the Haranir don't currently have as many of those options as the Vulpera did. They have even more. Like, loads more. Like, basically all of them. Currently, they can equip just about every player armor set in the game. They have an incredible amount of cosmetic customizations. What
Oh my
looks
god, I
like
love them.
it could be a
I'm getting so
heritage
hyped.
armor set. Oh, and they are literally listed in the data alongside Alliance and Horde Earthen entries.
Yes!
You know, the War Within allied race. Also in that list is Airship, which could be referencing the Arathi.
Wait, you can play an airship. I'll be an airship paladin.
That we've already talked about, or, I mean, hopefully, the Hopium Blimp playable
Wait,
race.
can Heron? You probably can be a shaman. Wait a minute. That means that I should be leveling shaman because I'm finally gonna have a cute shaman
that
race.
you've always dreamed of.
Wait a minute.
Want my honest opinion?
You know
the
they're gonna be able to
data
be
we
shamans
have
if you can
on
play them. Let me
these
see the
guys
level
is
shaman right
as
now.
Close to a confirmation that they will be an allied race as it is possible to get without an official confirmation. I've
Oh my
been doing this
god.
for a long time now. Yeah, I
need to
think
play shaman
we
right now.
players are definitely going to be getting
Oh my
our
god, it looks so
hands
good.
on the Haranir before the War Within is up. You can quote me on that. We
I
do
need that.
have one more race we want to talk about today. It's a
Shaman
doozy, one that goes
is
all the
playable.
way back to our BF.
Cute character enjoyers. I
FA
mean,
video.
shaman was playable with Goblin and Vulpera, but now
And is finally looking more likely than ever. But first, I think you need some Evitel in your life.
Hey everyone, hope you're all good. This may come as a surprise, but sometimes I get out. Sometimes mummy and daddy have to get ourselves out of the house, touch grass, eat stuff, and try to be functional human beings. Thankfully, Squarespace has our backs here, and they are sponsoring today's video. I was on a train a few days ago, and trains make me really contemplative. I was just sitting there watching
I
the
don't like
world
to play
whoosh
Draenei.
by, and I thought to myself, oh shoot, I really need to get some Squarespace integrations done. Not to fear, because Squarespace mobile editing is here. You can do some page management straight from a
maybe
browser,
I need
which
a
is
Squarespace
handy.
page.
And even some basic page editing, which, ooh, okay, that does not look good. This calls for the app. And thank goodness for the Squarespace app, where you can have an overview of all your pages.
Yeah, maybe
plus
I need
editing
that.
and switching things up as you need. You know how I
Maybe
feel
we need a
about
Zepla
analytics,
HQ
so it
page on
brings me great
Squarespace.
comfort to know I can catch up on all our piddly page views wherever I am, filtering by visits, views, geography, the whole shebang. I can even access an activity log of all your locations and IP addresses. My absolute favorite is the marketing tab, which is kind of incredibly filled with pre-made stories.
Wait a minute. I'll let this play.
Reels, and social posts, which are frankly better than anything I could make and instantly available. You can customize them too because
I just realized
duh,
something.
It's Squarespace. Now I have literally no excuse for not keeping the site up to date. Dang. You know what would make me feel so much better? If you went to Squarespace.
I just realized that. Okay, Earthen is for both Alliance and Horde. Arathi is probably going to be Undead for Alliance. It'll probably be so Alliance can use Undead model. And that means Haranir will be Horde. I bet.
.com/Taliesin Evitel or used code Taliesin Evitel and got 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That would make me feel like so much better. You too, presumably, because who doesn't love 10% off? That's squarespace.com/Taliesin Evitel.
Lightforged Undead. People have been talking about Lightforged Undead
Man,
ever since
I need to get some
Haria
sponsors.
became the
I need to get some sponsor like that I can stick into a video. That's a good idea. It would help.
powered prototype in Before the Storm, with the upcoming BFA having
need to do
strong
that.
focus on the Forsaken faction due to their connections with Sylvanas. Talk
I
of
don't
a
have any of
third
that shit.
possible undead faction becoming playable as a
Yet.
result of the Fourth War. Lightforged Undead seemed like a natural next step. It never happened, of course, but you might want to look at some of these War Within models. Oh look, it's Lightforged Undead. Now, I'm not a complete idiot. I know that these aren't models that are being prepared for player customizations and playable options.
Okay.
They
Okay.
pretty standard enemy NPCs as far as the data goes, and it doesn't take much imagination to speculate as to where and why these crusty chaps appear. The Arathi worship the light from the Naru, the crystal. They are fighting a war of attrition with the encroaching Nerubians.
Okay, so we think that Arathi is going to be half elves race of humans and not is going to be some kind of weird Lightforged Undead situation.
The Note people, some Arathi, who will probably turn out to be baddies, let's be honest, are probably desecrating the graves of the fallen and using them as soldiers in their fight for survival. And like, do you see what I mean about Hallowfall being the really big zone reveal lore-wise? Everything we've talked about today.
Oh, actually, that's a better
zone. So yeah, these guys
theory.
are not going to be playable, but just as how Faerun
that Arathi will be customization option, but not a unique race. And then Haranir, maybe that could be for both, like a neutral race.
Very existence opens the door to a bucket load of new and very lore meaningful player character customizations. You'd have to say that Undead animated by the light could do too, and could bridge the gap between our current playable Forsaken characters and the class customization that Blizz have always insisted makes no sense. Paladins. Forsaken can use the light, but canonically it physically hurts them to do so, searing and burning their flesh as they channel it, which is why if you run a Forsaken priest and don't go shadow, then you should probably be reported for WoW character cruelty, along with anyone who willfully plays feral. And I doubt very much whether these light animated corpses are enjoying their lightbound experience very much, but would it really surprise you if Blizz were to use the story connected to them to finally enable a light-powered version of Forsaken and fulfill the promise that the appearance of Haria seemed to make around 7 years ago? Maybe we free these undead from their zealous Arathi controller and they are still Lightforged but with nowhere to go, and the Forsaken take them in, give them a home, and boom,
maybe
Lightforged Forsaken customizations in the same way that we got Eridar options when the Draenei took them back on the road in Dragonflight. Narratively, that really does seem all it takes. And why couldn't these new Light Forsaken bring the Paladin class with them to the Forsaken, teach them how to deal with the searing, burning light pain, and even to love and use it? I see no reason why not. And whereas I don't rate this quite so nailed on as the first two options in this video, I still find it very likely indeed that this will be a player character option soon. But what do you think? How likely are these new playable race and customization options in your opinion? And are they changes you'd welcome, or would you rather burn them with fire? You know, more fire. Let us know in the comments below. And thanks for joining us today.
Really like this race, the Haranir. I like the male and female models, and I am like on the hype train pretty hard for this now. I really need this to happen. It's another long-eared nature enjoyer race, which I'm here for. Okay, that's what I care about. And it seems incredibly likely that I will be able to play my favorite class, well, one of my favorite class, if not my favorite class, on a character that I will be more attached to. Shaman. They will 100% be a shaman. You can look at them and see that.